So we recognized that every customer had the same problem, which was the cost to generate a lead was going up. And the problem was, it was a value in match, right? So somebody asks for you 16 questions. You might go, I'd quite like to register that webinar. Yeah. And they ask you for your job title.
No, thank you.
Your email. And you immediately go, you know what? I might learn something, but I'm not willing to give up all this stuff. Yep. So what our system does is it says, okay, you give the brand 20 minutes of your time on this webinar, or you give the brand your attention to download this document, like a case study or whatever, right? But we reward you with a good in the world, and you get to decide and direct where that good goes. So, good example, okay. Live campaign, 20 minutes of your time to watch this webinar, where you might learn something, and we carbon offset your computer for the rest of the year. So it's like saying 20 minutes of your time, and we'll offset a ton of carbon, which is enough for your laptop, your phone. You feel good, but you're getting a reward for your time. So it's like we recognize your time has got money. We did some pilots, and we started to build the system, and we were reducing cost per leads by up to 50%.
Really?
And this is where the kicker comes in. It's the easiest thing that we've ever had to sell, because in reality, what we're selling to the marketeers and the advertisers is we're selling them savings. So if it costs them $500 to get somebody to turn up to a B2B webinar on networking, for example, using this incentive should reduce that to around $250, $300. So if the reward is then, say, even if it's $50, they go crazy and they say, okay, $50 per lead and we do something good in the world. The reward is paid for out of the savings. So it's not a tax, it's a saving. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. So because you are saving, because the cost is essentially being cut in half, there's 50% of that funds that can be distributed and essentially given back to the customer. So
we just did a campaign for Google, because Google are a client of ours, which was about making an event carbon net zero. So the idea was we wanted to carbon offset the whole physical event. It was a big cloud summit in Europe. Everybody that came could go to the event, they could check in, they could get their carbon offset stuff and things like that. And it generated 1,500 leads. But the additional benefit to the brand is that they get all of that for their ESG goals. So they can turn around and say, we've just offset 350 tons of carbon, which they did. So marketing gets a cheaper lead, they get higher engagement, but the brand actually gets this, and depending on the country you're in, depends on whether that's important or not. But listed US companies have got ESG goals that they have to try and meet. So it helps them address that.